Welcome to another edition of Madden Benz Unfiltered. Mark Madden, Tim Benz here with you after the Steelers win another preseason game. They're getting great at the preseason. Can it carry over to the regular season?
They are the champions of the preseason. Get the parade set up.
Even more than the Ravens had, well, not as much as the Ravens. The Ravens did that for what, like 4 or 5 years in a row?
No, it's still going. I think they play tonight, right?
Have they not lost? They still continue that streak?
No, it's 24 in a row.
Well, there you go. They still got to catch the Ravens then, Mark, to become the preseason champions of the AFC North.
You know, it's funny because back in the day, remember when Spurrier coached Washington for a brief time?
Yeah.
He tried to win exhibition games. He felt it was important to build momentum by winning those games, and he would play the starters a little longer, and he would game plan. And I got to be honest, I see the wisdom in game planning for exhibitions because it gets your guys used to executing game plans. You know, you can practice that too, but it was still a bit over the top. But yeah, he won like almost all his exhibitions. Then they got killed in the regular season.
Yeah, just about to say the great irony of that is he's a college coach who came to the NFL, and the college ranks don't have preseason. He should know how to get a team ready without a preseason. How much should the Steelers play the starters in the preseason finale against Atlanta? Boy, Mike Tomlin hinting strong that they're going to do a lot more of that after the game against Buffalo. I would think that they'd be less inclined to do so since the starting group has been so sound for the first 2 games.
Well, right, but you want to maintain momentum. Don't get me wrong. If it were me, I wouldn't play them at all. But I understand why he would if he does. I'd play him a couple series maybe. I mean, the offense is 3 for 3. I mean, heaven's sakes, who'd have thought? Like I said, they're winning the preseason.
Honestly, the defensive front is where I think some of the hardest decisions are for the coaches when it comes to the cuts. They're playing Atlanta. Atlanta's a big run team. I'd really be disinclined to play the defensive starters. I want to see what the second line of the defense should look like against a good run team to know who to keep.
Well, I mean, who do you think is going to rotate as the Don lineman? Because they use a pretty, extensive rotation. There's going to be Cam and Ogunjobi, and I would assume Keanu Benton has earned some playing time. Keep going. I mean, who else is going to rotate in?
I think there's a decision to be made between Montravius Adams and Braden Fehoko.
Yeah, but they like Montravius Adams.
I think they like Fehoko too. I just think that they feel like Adams could be a better up the field pass rusher if they keep him in nickel and dime like they did in that game against Buffalo. But I think Fajoko's a run-stopping specialist. I don't think DeVarman Leal has had a great camp. I think they're trying to figure out if they want to keep Isaiah Loudermilk. I think these are the decisions they're trying to make against the Falcons.
They wouldn't cut Leal, would they?
I don't think so. I'll
tell you what, though. You know what he strikes me as? A guy without a position.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is. I think they thought he could do a little bit of everything when they drafted him, and now
and he's doing mostly nothing.
Yeah, I think they're trying to figure out if he can do everything well.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, you always have to factor in who they like, don't you?
Yeah, and I do think they like to be right about picks. That's for sure. And I think that factors into the running back conversation that we had on the podcast. A lot of this is going to come down to they want to be right about Najee Harris, particularly, Mark, because they took so much guff for taking a running back in the first round to begin with.
Well, I just sent a column to the Trib that I'm happy with Harris as the starter and getting 75% of the carries. I just don't think you throw a number 1 pick to the curb. Well, they wouldn't cut him, but you know what I mean? Make him a backup after a total of 3 carries between them in an exhibition game. I just don't think that reveals that much.
They're also very thin at running back. It's not like they got a number of guys vying for spots here. Like, the next best guy is probably Anthony McFarland.
And he sucks.
And then it's just down the liners from there. They don't really have a fullback. That's Connor Hayward or Kendrick Green. Green is clinging to life right now when it comes to being an offensive lineman.
They can't keep him. In both exhibition games, he hasn't yet played fullback, and he's totally botched center.
Right. And they haven't had a good look at anybody else's backup center because Herbig's been hurt. They're loath to try Daniels and Siamalu there. I understand why. It might be the 7th round guy. It might be that Spencer Anderson that they picked up from Maryland with the last pick.
I got to tell you, I loved it when Kendrick Green rifled the unexpected snap, like right up Mason Rudolph. I wish that would happen once a game.
What a collision of worlds that was for Steelers fans on Twitter. Who do we blame for this, Green or Rudolph? It's both their fault. Blame them both.
See, I think Rudolph's a good third quarterback.
Oh, I agree. I mean, he's a starting NFL guy. He's had lots of starts in the league.
Yeah,
you're not going to do better than that.
He's exactly the kind of guy you'd feel comfortable bringing in cold in what would be an incredibly dire situation.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was talking about how great the Bills' quarterback situation was, which is why they let Trubisky go to the Steelers in the first place last year. Anybody after Josh Allen impress you on Saturday? They didn't me.
Don't you think every NFL team is in a situation where it's, well, not every, because I got to be honest, even though Pickett's had a great preseason, if you listed the guys the Steelers could least afford to have hurt, Pickett wouldn't be that high up the list. I don't feel that right this second it would be a big drop from Pickett to Trubisky, although then you'd be, obviously hindering Pickett's development. He wouldn't be getting better. He wouldn't be reaching that next level on the timetable he appears to be. But yeah, I mean, I think the Steelers are pretty good at quarterback.
All right, so Steelers fans, what do you want to see going into this last preseason game against the Atlanta Falcons? And maybe the corollary to that is, what are you most excited about based on what you've seen so far in the 2 preseason games? A lot was made, Mark, about the fact that they were playing the Bills. The Bills played their starters. How much of a takeaway do you have in that context? The fact that they played a really good AFC team that had number ones out there and they did the job.
I don't discount it. But, the Steelers are really trying to show everybody and show themselves really that they're going to take a step up this year. I think the Bills, despite having played their starters, know exactly where they're at, who they've got, what their expectations are. So I think there was a difference in approach when it comes to intensity and urgency.
I just think everybody is so happy to see signs of life from the offense that it dwarfs any other topic that's on the table.
I'm happy to see signs of expansion and change in the offense. Using the middle of the field, some of the stuff with Calvin Austin. Allen Robinson made a big third down catch. I like the way the personnel's being deployed, but as always, I worry that at the first sign of making mistakes in the real season, that they dumb it down.
That's a concern that I've got too, in the sense that, they just feel like they're walking on a paper-thin edge here, and any mistake they still can't afford to come back from. They have to get away from that. They have to.
That's right. That's nonsense. I'll tell you what they can't afford to do. They can't afford to score 30 points once in a season.
Right.
Because if they only score 30 points again once this coming season, they won't make the playoffs again. That's an absolute guarantee.
Okay, folks, Steelers fans, want to hear from you on what you think of the preseason so far. Post your comments. We'll get to them as the show rolls along here. Mark, San Francisco played over the weekend. Brock Purdy played. He gave the ball to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel ran real far with it a couple times.
Hey, so did Jaylen Warren, Tim.
Yeah, I mean,
San Francisco's going to be tough.
Yeah.
You see, what worries me about them is, well, obviously Deebo is that X factor that the Steelers don't have, and you don't get used to defending a guy like that either. And also, Christian McCaffrey is going to hit them where they ain't. I mean, I still don't think the Steelers are good in the middle of the defense. And although my dream scenario, Tim, is that on the first play of the game, T.J. Watt tackles Christian McCaffrey, and they're both out for the year.
Yeah, collision of worlds there, given their
injury-prone guys.
Yeah, right, exactly. I wouldn't play Watt or Hayward in this game. I would let them rest. I know what Tomlin was saying after the Atlanta game, but every time I see a starting player get through a preseason game uninjured, I feel like they just dance through the raindrops, especially those guys.
If you're exactly right, Tim. If the major effect of playing a TJ Watt on Thursday is that you're relieved when he doesn't get hurt, then he shouldn't play in the first place.
Yeah, what should the Steelers do? Want to hear from Steelers fans on that front as well. I'd like to see Bijan Robinson play for Atlanta. That would be a really good test. He might be one of the better running backs in the NFL as a rookie this year. Not sure if they're going to play him. Arthur Smith sort of dodged that question. He only mentioned 2 wide receivers who likely weren't going to play. And I do think that factored into Tomlin's decision-making that a conference foe.
Wait a minute. Who said that? Arthur Smith, the owner?
No, the coach.
The coach, isn't there an owner named Arthur Smith too?
Arthur Blank is the owner.
Oh, okay. I drew a blank.
Yeah, he's Arthur Smith's the former Tennessee assistant. So, and all they like to do is run. So, like, to your point about the Niners, that's actually a decent test to see what the guys can do against the run.
I think Bijan Robinson might lead the league in rushing. I mean, he's a rookie. He's on that cheap contract, and they don't care if he lives or dies. He's going to carry the ball a ton.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why people are so in favor of Jaylen Warren getting lots of touches is that we know this, Mark. Steelers fans love to find scapegoats, and Najee Harris hasn't been what they hoped so far as a first-round pick, and he was squawking about the running backs, making noise about the running backs. I think people are ready to just say, hey, go for the backup because that's what we like to do around here.
Yeah,
goalies, running backs.
They shouldn't do that. They should go with Harris, although I love after the game, Warren said he could handle the starting role. And Najee, like when he was asked about Warren, like says, well, and he started praising the receivers for blocking.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a rift there. I think Warren went out of his way to make the run sound like it was courtesy of the offensive line, but
I thought it was.
And it was. But, what I liked about that run from Warren is he showed finishing kick, like speed down the sideline that I didn't know. I always knew he had burst. I always knew he had the first few steps, but he finished off the run with speed down the sideline.
I didn't know only one guy got a touch on him, and that was just kind of glancing.
Yeah, so I definitely want to hear from Steelers fans the running back debate. What do you think on that front as well? Mark, we didn't talk much hockey during the podcast because I didn't know how much hockey there was to talk about. I actually got some people emailing me this week saying, why aren't you guys talking more hockey? There's not much more that could be said now that they got
there's
Carlson.
Nothing going on right now. I wish there were.
Is there a move to be made up front to get another winger?
I just think they're going to invite some PTO guys to camp, and if one impressive, see if they can cheap them down to, not have to finagle the cap that much.
Like a Tatar, for instance?
Yeah, although Tatar, he made 4.5 last year. What do you think he'd settle for here?
Yeah, it might be a question for him. I think kind of like what we saw in Philadelphia with Miles Jack this past week. Like, is it worth it to play at all if I'm going to play for that little?
Yeah, well, Miles Jack's going to become a plumber or an electrician.
I saw that. He wanted to take up a trade. He was ready to take up a trade, and then he decided, I'll go play one more year in Philadelphia. And he got to Philadelphia and says, well, this is Philadelphia. I'm not going to do this.
If he's an electrician or a plumber in a year, he'll be begging somebody to come to camp.
Would you let
I've heard the name Zach Parisi too, but he's a dink. I don't want him on my team. Ask Billy Guerin about him.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they need one more winger.
Would you let Miles Jack fix your electricity, Mark, or fix your toilet?
No, I'm a CW electrical service guy.
Oh, okay. So there's a brand name involved here. Got it. Understood.
Exactly.
Let's get to baseball and Paul Skenes.
By the way, my electrician from CW,
yes,
was the bass player in Tommy Lee's first band in Hollywood.
How did that come to pass?
I don't know, but he is.
What was the name of that band?
I think it was Sweet 19.
Okay, and then he branched off and went to Motley Crue, and then this guy became a plumber in Pittsburgh, huh?
Yeah, but it's for sure true. Like I've seen pictures of the guy in Sweet 19.
Yeah.
That he showed me on his phone. And like when Motley came to town, they were like texting, dude, you got to come to this, tremendous stuff.
Mark, let's get to Paul Skenes. The Pirates going to screw him up.
Yeah.
For sure?
Yeah.
Are you concerned like some Pirates fans are, like you're hearing him talk about pitching to contact and working to fulfill his repertoire?
I'm not worried about that. Don't get me wrong. That may well figure into how they screw him up.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like that he's pitching an inning here, an inning there. It almost seems like they're taking him from stadium to stadium to draw a crowd. I don't think that's the case because I'm not sure if they've been home or away. It's just weird how they're using him. I mean, this guy is said to be major league ready by everybody. And they're pulling this crap. I don't get it. I mean, I don't want him to pitch in the majors now. I wanted to pitch maybe in the fall league to get a little bit, just rhythm back.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes to spring training and starts the second game of the regular season at home.
Yeah, I wondered what they were going to do on this front too, because there's always a danger to sort of ramping the guy back up again. And to what end do you get out of that? Do you just save the mileage and get him going maybe a little bit earlier in February or whatever when you get down to Bradenton? I kind of thought that the big concern was, is it going to be too long before he starts again once they get to spring training? And we just can't have a gap like that. But
well, my thing is like I see two of the teams have already called up the guy they drafted in the first round this year.
Yeah, I mean, that started as like a trend. When was that? Washington did that with somebody, and it helped them win the World Series that year.
Why isn't Paul Skenes ready? I mean, why is everybody else saying he's ready, and the organization that loses 100 games almost every year seems to know better?
Well, I think the greater question to that is, why do all their fans automatically believe in everything they do when they've given you 30 years of evidence to not?
Well, and do the fans believe this is good? I don't know. I mean, I just think they're going to mangle him. And if he's smart, and I don't know that he is, because he has that porn mustache, that cheesy mustache.
Hey, got Livy done. He's got to be smart at least enough to figure that out.
I could make a really awful joke right now concerning the mustache. A quote from the movie, from the book, Semi-Tough.
Yes. Okay. I know where you're going with it.
Yeah. By the way, another quote from there I can use is, "It's every man's ambition to just lay on his back and bat cleanup." But if I were him, I would say, listen, here's what's going to happen. Okay.
You're dictating the terms.
Yeah. With his agent, because I just think that he probably knows better by now. If he is major league ready coming out of LSU, I think he's got figured out.
What do you think of what happened with the Patriots and Packers canceling that game?
Every time somebody takes a severe bump now, we're going to cancel games.
I tend to agree with what you said on the podcast, that there's
the guy was out of the hospital and walking before everybody left the stadium.
There's such a rush now to prove how conscientious you are.
It's because we care more, Tim.
It's show is what it is.
We care more.
That didn't. I know what happened with Damar Hamlin was shocking for everybody to see, but
if we forgot that, we keep getting reminded.
And that also didn't rise to that level. Now, are we just doing this because it's a preseason game and they didn't want to play anyway? I mean, one thing we did see, Mark, was I understand why they did what they did with Hamlin, but it was really hard to figure out a way around canceling an NFL game. This is a preseason game. You can cancel it. But if we're just going to cancel it for the sake of canceling because it's easy to do, why play it in the first place? Why not get down to 2 games then?
I think it'll happen during the regular season at least a couple times.
You're probably right. And I thought
– And here's the thing too. A lot of the coaches, even with the Hamlin game, okay, and the players, not all of them, maybe not.
Fourth quarter. What are you going to do? Replay a whole game, pick up a game in the fourth quarter? You can't do that. Right. And I think they got into this mode where, they got so used to figuring out ways around scheduling problems after COVID that they thought they could do anything at any time. And that proved that you couldn't. So you can't just go by the standard of, well, we did it once for DeMar, now we can do it whenever we think we should.
Well, and the thing with Damar Hamlin, hey, he went to Pitt, McKees Rocks, lovely kid. Everybody loves him, okay? And I wish him nothing but the best. He's okay now.
And he wants to be okay. He's the one that wants to come back. He's the one that wants to come back and play. He's trying to tell everybody he's okay.
Right. Although he wallows in the attention too. Let's be honest.
Was it him or is it the Bills? Or the league, for that matter?
And the Steelers. I mean, Mike Tomlin acted like it was his kid coming back.
What was the other?
And again, to reemphasize, lovely kid. I'm glad he's okay, but that's over now.
Oh, I know what I was thinking of. The pop-up kicks, the XFL kicks. Not really pop-up kicks, but like they want to change how kicks are covered to allow.
Yeah, it's easy to explain too. The kicker kicks off from the 35, the 30, not the 35. So there's less touchbacks, less through the end zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
The receiver lines up wherever, but it's usually at about the 20. And then the other 10 guys on each team, the receiving team lines their guys up at the 30. They're 30. The kicking team lines their guys up 5 yards away at the other team's 35. So you get the same effect of covering a kick, but without the 40-yard sprint to a head-on collision. You get the same elements, the blocking, trying to open a hole, all that stuff, but it's safer. They should adopt that right this second.
I think the NFL eventually will, because it looks like you're still playing real football with real kickoffs.
And you get kicks returned. Like there are guys like Pat McAfee's like a big special teams guy because that was his game, right?
Yeah.
And like when it comes to the almost all touchbacks and the fair catch rule they have now, you can't do that. That's not football. But then the XFL thing, you can't do that. It's not football. I mean, okay, then what is football? Somebody tell me.
If you don't do this, you're going to wind up with, what you do in pickup league flag football, which is just start at the 25.
If you don't do the XFL kickoff rule, you should just start at the 25. You should just eliminate kicks. Tim, I would have a problem if they eliminated kicks altogether. If they eliminated kickoffs, extra points, field goals, and just play touchdowns.
Richard says it's just about guaranteed that the minute the Steelers offense makes a mistake, Tomlin will pull everything back close to the vest. Tomlin has shown that he indeed lives in his spheres.
Gee, that would be a good thing to write in a column using that line. Put it this way. I think they've reached the point where they can't do that. Okay? But they might do it anyway.
Jeremy says, I think Paul Skenes is the real deal, but the problem will be the pitching staff will probably screw him up. Well,
the coaching staff. Yeah, but that's where he has to be mature enough to rely on what got him to this point, just do it his way. Didn't the Pirate pitcher do that? Didn't Garrett Cole tell the pitching coaches, look, I'm not pitching the contact. I'm going to strike guys out. Shut up.
Was that him that tried? Well, I don't remember, because I think he got to the Astros and they allowed him to do that more, and he sort of flourished after he left.
There was some Pirate pitcher who talked back. One Charlie Morton. Look how good Charlie Morton is now that he tries to strike people out. He's like 109 years old.
Jeremy says, I think Paul Skenes is the real... Oops, I'm sorry. This is Brian. Mark, are you willing to elaborate on Parise being a dink? I can't get a hold of Billy G.
You're going to have to. No, just a difficult guy to deal with in the locker room, especially when his star started falling.
Lee asks, I find it comical that the Steelers fans think that Warren should be the starter over Harris after one freaking run.
Well, that's what I wrote in my column, that we're making this big decision after a combined total of 3 runs.
Not only that, Mark, but no one's taking into account what the inverse is then. Because like we just said, there's only 2 running backs right now. The other guy's right. McFarland. So if you go with Warren as the 1, do you want then Najee as the change of pace? And do you think that Warren over 25 carries a game will be as effective as he is in the 7 to 10 capacity that we have him in here now in this formula?
See, I think in fairness to Warren, okay, if you use him sporadically, then that long run, the breaking one off, becomes an absolute crapshoot. Like if a guy like that is your regular running back, a run like that becomes not quite inevitable, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. The longer you do it, the closer you get to it. But I think if he gets 3 or 4 carries a game, it's random.
And hey, I agree with a lot of people who were saying Najee Harris never turns that into a touchdown. You're right, but he might also turn it into a 20-yard gain or a 30-yard gain, and in a lot of cases, that's good enough, especially with the rest of the offense going the way that it's going now.
Like, who would you bet on to convert 3rd and 4 more often?
Well, they'd probably throw in 3rd and 4 these days, but 3rd and 2, Najee. 2nd and 1, Najee, yes.
And they want to be a power running team, and Jaylen Warren isn't that.
Ken says the Pirates must fire every coach the minute the last out of the season is made. They all suck. Boy, I know that the hitting coach in Shelton, for what he's supposed to be as a hitting coach, as manager, that's taken a lot of criticism, but it really manifested yesterday against Dallas Keuchel, who's been a punching bag ever since he's tried to come back in the majors. And what did they manage? 2 hits yesterday?
That's all we got is 2 hits? Wait. I thought the llama was back for a second.
How is the llama doing? Because I'll tell you, my fight against the lanternflies is a losing effort at this point. I'm now putting out
the lanternflies here. All we did was tape the trees. We're winning.
I put like glue traps out, like mouse trap glue traps.
Yeah, that's what we got here, except we have this double sticky tape on the trees.
I even put that on my door.
It's just coated with lanternflies. What were we talking? Yeah, I mean, the guy that it's kind of really lost is Henry Davis.
Yeah.
He looks terrible. He looks lost at the plate. He looks lost in the field.
His
When he runs the
defense
base, he wears that stupid oven mitt.
Well, they all wear the oven mitt now.
I got to tell you, I think that they destroyed him the first day he got there, and they either told him or he ascertained he wasn't going to catch. I think he saw himself as a catcher. I think his agent saw him as a catcher. I think this has devastated him.
Richard added one more. Skenes is MLB ready. The problem is the organization wanting to maximize Super 2 control over him. Unfortunately, that means he's likely starting next season in the minors. Well,
I got to tell you, once upon a time, I thought the way to go for sure was to have him and Keller as the 1-2 punch on top of the rotation to open next season, because you can maintain that for 2 years. The 2 years you maintain Keller's control. But now Keller stinks, so what's the difference? Like, one thing the Pirate fans should get by now is that this team will never make the playoffs again. Well, okay, that's a little strong. Never win a playoff series again. They're going to stink in perpetuity. Mediocre is as good as they can get.
Mark, your thoughts on the GNR show for people who didn't hear the podcast. What'd you think? What was your review?
I thought it was great. I think people who nitpicked about Axel's voice were a little out of line, to quote, "You could be mine." I thought it was terrific.
I thought the band was fantastic. He would find his fastball every now and then in the middle of songs and then search for it. I think you and I are in agreement. Some of the set lists they put out there was awfully challenging for him at this stage.
Well, yeah, like when I said this on the podcast, when Plant did that Zeppelin reunion in, I think, 2008, he said, "I can't sing Immigrant Song," or what's the other one? Communication Breakdown anymore. I just can't sing that high that much in one song. That's the way the story goes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when Black Sabbath reunited, Ozzy said the same thing about Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. He just couldn't sing that high over the course of a song. So what Sabbath did was they used the riff for Sabbath Bloody Sabbath as the intro to, I think, Paranoid, which was still kind of cool. But Axl can't not sing Sweet Child of Mine.
That's the problem. Yeah. So many of their best songs are high register.
That Plant and Ozzy didn't sing. They were big tunes, but they weren't sorely missed. But you can't not sing Sweet Child of Mine. And boy, that's really demanding. And that's the song where I thought he sounded I don't want to say worse, because I thought he sounded okay.
How about Winning Time, Mark? Have you started to watch the second season of Winning Time?
Yeah, I'm caught up. I'm up to date.
Okay, I'm just getting going.
The first year Jerry West was this pantomime villain, right?
Yes.
Which isn't how Jerry West is. But now in season 2, after everybody's saying that's not how Jerry West is, he's exactly the same. Okay? Larry Bird is also a pantomime villain. Norm Nixon is becoming a pantomime villain. They are just taking it way over the top, but I gotta tell the truth, to pretty good effect.
All right, that's what we try to do here at Madden Benz Unfiltered.
Like all the stuff where Larry Bird, did you see the new one where he's like, he's thinking about going to Indiana State, and he goes and plays in one of their practices in jeans and lights them up?
Yes, I heard about that.
Huh?
I heard about that. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, that really happened.
Yeah, and I like what was the riot scene that they opened up the second season with? That was taken a little far.
Well, right, but like the Larry Bird thing, like in fact they even have they drop in a subtitle. This happened. He played in jeans.
Yeah, well, when it's real because they go out of their way to tell you it's real. They've done that for 2 seasons now.
Like, again, one of my favorite movies in recent memory is I, Tonya.
Yes.
Where her coach says when she prepares to make that last run at the Olympics that featured the incident, the effing incident. That's what you came for. That's cool how they break the fourth wall in that movie a lot.
Yeah.
But she's doing stuff like she's flipping the tree stump over and over again, and her coach goes, "She really did this, and this too, and this too." So yeah. But I do like Winning Time. But I got to tell you, if I were Jerry West, I would be upset.
I think it's gotten so much pushback. The worse he is on the TV show, the more people talk about how good of a guy he is in real life, and now it's going the other way for him.
And they're turning Paul Westhead into a cartoon villain too.
Yes, they are. They are.
Like infamy. They've all got an infamy.
All right, Mark is back on his show today. Make sure you listen. He's on Monday through Friday, 3 until 6 on the X. I'm at Breakfast with Benz every morning, and we'll have a full recap on Friday after the next preseason game for the Steelers. And
Is the game Thursday?
Yes, it is.
Oh, God.
You know what, Mark? It just gets the preseason over quicker. That's all. It gets it over quicker.
I hate weeknight games, though. Don't you?
Yeah, I do, too, because it's a late night. It's an early morning. And, Thursday nights suck.
Yeah, like when I do my viewing parties, like people think I would like the Monday and Thursday night games in the Sunday night games. And, people always say, "Oh, this is so exciting, the night game, prime time." I go, "Yeah, I get to bed at about 1:30.
There's nothing exciting about that.
Exactly.
All right, we're back next week, and we'll recap the Falcons game with you as well. This is Madden Benz Unfiltered.